Hello everyone, and welcome back to What If Deku Had the Force Part 2. Izuku woke up early in the morning. He stretched, enjoying the early morning light coming into his room. Izuku felt different today, in a good way. He helped rescue his tormentor, met his idol, got his dream systematically crushed by his idol all in the same day. But despite all of the less than stellar events of the day, Izuku had awakened his quirk. Closing his eyes, Izuku took a deep breath. He focused his mind on all the things that he needed to start doing. While he organized his thoughts, Izuku felt the air shift around him, almost as if it were alive. He quickly opened his eyes, looking around the room. Everything was exactly as he had left it the night before, and he couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Izuku furrowed his brow as he was sure he had felt something. It was a similar sensation that he remembered whenever his quirk activated. I'm gonna have to look into this more, he thought to himself before rushing downstairs. Before he reached the bottom of the stairs, he could smell food cooking in the kitchen. Izuku slid into the room and sat down at the table. "Hey Izu, how did you sleep?" Inko asked as she turned around, placing a plate of eggs and sausage down in front of Izuku. "I slept pretty well. I'm feeling great," Izuku said, excited as he began to wolf down his breakfast. Inko smiled before dishing herself up a plate and sitting down next to Izuku. "So what are you planning on doing today?" Inko asked, curious about the glowing and chipper Izuku who sat next to her. She never mentioned it, but she had always worried about Izuku. Holding true to his idol, Izuku always wore a smile on his face. Despite that, she could still see that it was always surface deep. She had seen the bruises and scrapes that Izuku always tried to hide from her. Despite her attempts to bring up the subject, Izuku always had an excuse for it. She often felt sad and scared for Izuku, wanting to help him and comfort him, but she never knew how to approach it. Seeing Izuku genuinely happy and chipper made her almost break out into tears. I think I'm gonna go find somewhere to train. I've been focusing on training my mind all this time. I haven't really trained my body to become a hero. I also need a safe place to train and learn my quirk," Izuku said, gradually beginning to devolve into muttering. He paused his muttering session to look towards the door. "I think there's someone here." Inko looked confused as she stared at Izuku and then the door. "I didn't hear anything," she said. Curious, Izuku walked to the door and opened it. Standing just outside the door, looking angry and guilty, was Bakugo. He looked as though he was getting ready to walk away, but upon being spotted, stopped and readopted his usual explosive attitude. Did you need something, Kachan?" Bakugo looked past Izuku into the apartment and seeing a bewildered Inko sitting at the table. "Damn it, Deku! Come with me," Bakugo said, turning and walking away. Izuku turned to look at Inko, still sitting at the table before shrugging and slipping on his shoes and following Bakugo. They walked in silence for about a month, and the further away Izuku got from his apartment, the more nervous Izuku got. "I'm gonna get beaten up again, aren't I?" he thought to himself before Bakugo stopped. Bakugo turned around to face Izuku, his eyes looked angry. "I have a quirk!" they yelled simultaneously. They both sat there staring at each other as if they had both grown elephant heads spontaneously. "What?" Izuku held his hands up defensively in front of him. Sorry, I panicked. I thought you were bringing me out here to beat me up or something." Bakugo, stunned, quickly turned to anger as he registered what Izuku was saying. "You've been lying to me this whole time? Have you been looking down on me?" Bakugo yelled in fury. But no. I just awakened it yesterday after the slime attack. I swear. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure how to use it," Izuku stuttered, holding his hands defensively in front of himself. Bakugo looked Izuku over, taking a few deep breaths to calm himself down. "Is it powerful?" he asked curiously. "Well, I can't say it's weak. I mean, it seems to be a form of telekinesis like my mom's," he said carefully. "But if I can train it, I'm sure I can become really strong." Bakugo scowled. "It doesn't matter how hard you train. You're never going to surpass me." Stuffing his hands in his pockets, Bakugo turned and started walking away. He paused for a moment, looking back at Izuku. You're a stupid nerd, Deku. But just try and surpass me. It'll be more entertaining when I push you back down. Izuku was stunned. Despite the angry talk that was always Bakugo, his last statement almost seemed to Izuku as if he was actually telling him not to give up. Smiling, Izuku thought that the experience with the slime villain the other day must have got him to start thinking differently. Smiling, Izuku looked around. He had been so caught up with worrying about what Bakugo might do to him that he hadn't really paid attention to where he was walking. Izuku could see that he was somewhere near a beach. He could see the ocean between some of the buildings he was near and began to walk towards them. As he reached the beach, he was somewhat disappointed in seeing that it was littered with massive piles of trash. Sighing, he began to walk back in the direction of the house when an idea came to him. Looking down at the beach, he scanned the shoreline, and as far as he could see in either direction, there was trash. He also noticed that there weren't people. This could be the perfect place to train my quirk without anyone seeing me and reporting me, he thought to himself. And I can work on improving my strength by cleaning the beach. Feeling a new sense of purpose and drive, Izuku rushed home, began researching different fitness routines and diets, beginning to smash together a makeshift workout schedule for himself. When he was satisfied, he quickly changed into workout attire and began jogging back to Takoba Beach. For the next few hours, Izuku began moving as much garbage scattered around the beach as possible and sorting it into piles. It was hard work, but after the first few hours, he began to feel his body screaming for a rest. Eventually, he allowed himself to collapse on the sand, panting. He could feel every muscle screaming as he lay on the ground, trying not to move. Closing his eyes, he began to try and block out the pain that he was feeling. Focusing on his breathing, he began to slow his breathing to a steady rhythm. As he did, he began to feel a steadiness from within. Curious, he let the feeling wash over him. As a calm crashed over him like waves, and as it did, he began to feel a familiar pull from within himself. Reaching out with his mind, he grabbed at the pull, and he felt as his mind expanded. Despite his eyes being closed, it was as if he could see what was around him. No, not see, feel. He could feel how far away the scrap pile was from him. Slowly, he sat up, wincing in pain as he did. He focused on maintaining the connection that he was feeling with everything around him. Taking another deep breath, he tried to press his mind out further, to sense more. Sweat began rolling down his face more freely as he concentrated. He could now feel one of the large trash piles behind him. He could sense something moving from the other side. He focused his senses on the direction from whatever it was that was moving on the other side of the trash pile. And as he did, he could feel that whatever it was trying to unstick something from the pile. Izuku realized that whatever the thing was trying to pull appeared to be the stabilizing point of the pile. Being captivated by the experience, Izuku sat still, watching, not wanting to break the connection that he was experiencing. He felt what he now expected to be a person pulling an object from the pile. As the person did, a dryer became dislodged from the top of the pile and began to fall. Izuku heard a scream come from the other side of the pile. Realizing that he could have prevented this, Izuku panicked. His eyes shot open and instinctively he shot his hand out in the direction of the falling dryer. He felt energy charge around him and felt the dryer as it was falling. Clenching his fist as if to grab a fly out of the air, he felt the energy respond, wrapping itself around the dryer. He felt it stop in midair as if held by an invisible hand. Maintaining his focus, he threw his hand in the direction of another pile, and watched as the dryer went sailing from behind the trash pile and smashing into the one he was aiming at. "What the hell was that?" came a voice of a confused girl from the other side of the trash pile. He expected the girl to come out from behind the pile of trash to investigate, but he instead heard the sounds of footsteps rushing away from the beach. He could have sworn he heard the person say something about babies, but couldn't be sure. He lay back down, feeling the connection he experienced gradually fading away. Reaching out his hand towards the scrap pile, he tried to move some of the pieces. He found himself disappointed when they didn't respond to him. He sighed, standing up, and as he did, he felt an extreme wave of fatigue wash over him and felt himself almost black out. Using my quirk apparently causes me a lot of mental strain. Oh, I need to look more into this, he thought, slowly inching his way back towards the street. The following week at school was weird. Izuku had gotten used to being bullied, but when he got to the classroom, Bakugo just walked past him to his seat, ignoring him, which made Izuku both confused and grateful. Even the rest of the students who would typically add to the torment of Bakugo left Izuku alone. Izuku had the sneaking suspicion that Bakugo had said something to take the target off of Izuku's back, and resolved to talk to Bakugo at the end of the week. "Did you tell everyone that I have a quirk?" Izuku asked Bakugo outside the school. Bakugo just scoffed and continued walking. "I just told them that the only one who could use you as a boxing bag was me. As for your weak-ass quirk, I figured you could tell people about it yourself." "Huh, I wasn't expecting that from you, Kachan. That's pretty nice," Izuku said. He looked up and instantly regretted it, as Bakugo was now facing him, and his hand letting off small explosions. Wait, I didn't mean it like that." "Can it, you damn nerd!" shouted Bakugo as he tried to shove Izuku down. He was taken aback when Izuku sidestepped him just an instant before Bakugo's hands could make contact. Bakugo found himself falling forward, but was quickly snagged by the back of his collar by Izuku, the extra support giving Bakugo just enough time to catch himself before hitting the pavement. Standing up, Bakugo turned to face Izuku again. "What the hell was that, Deku? I thought you said that your quirk was telekinesis. How did you get so fast?" Izuku threw up his hands. I didn't use my quirk, or at least I don't think I did. I started training with it, and I've been learning some interesting stuff since I've started training. I've been doing physical training every day to also help prepare me for the UA's entrance exam," he said, speaking 100 miles an hour. "So you're training?" Bakugo said with a sneer. "Where are you training?" Izuku began to shuffle uncomfortably, unsure where this line of questioning was going. "I'm training over at Takoba Beach. I'm going through strength training and cleaning it up," he said, shuffling uncomfortably. I also got a permit to use my quirk there, so long as I'm using it to clean the beach." Bakugo sat silently staring Izuku down. "When do you train?" he growled. I go to train right after school, so now I guess," Izuku stuttered. Bakugo just grunted and turned, walking towards Takoba Beach. Wait, don't you live the other way?" "Shut up, you idiot nerd. You think I was just going to hear that you were training to surpass me and not show you how far the gap between us is?" he barked before turning again and heading towards the beach. "What are you waiting for, idiot? Let's go." Izuku sat in stunned silence. Was Bakugo wanting to train with him? Izuku looked around to see if he could see a camera somewhere, just to be sure that someone wasn't pranking him. Seeing no cameras, Izuku shrugged and began to chase after Bakugo. For the next few weeks, Izuku and Bakugo both trained together on the beach. In that time, they had managed to get one of the dozens of piles sorted and eventually disposed of. When they were not moving trash, they began sparring with each other, most of the time resulting in Izuku getting blasted down onto the ground. Unbeknownst to them, a figure watched them from a nearby rooftop. "Damn it, Deku, why aren't you using your quirk against me?" Bakugo growled as he pulled Izuku off the ground. "You know it's difficult for me. I have to be in a focused state of mind in order to use it, and it's really hard to do when there's an exploding fist coming at me," Izuku grumbled. "If I just had a few seconds to get myself in the right mindset," he said, closing his eyes. As he opened them a few seconds later, Izuku stretched out his hand, and a fridge levitated from the ground. Izuku closed his hand into a fist, and the refrigerator began denting and crushing a little bit before falling back onto the ground. "If that's the case, you need to start developing a fighting style for close combat until you can actually access your quirk faster. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep pounding you into the ground," Bakugo said, dusting his hands off. "Anyways, I think 10 wins to 5 losses means you're paying for dinner." Izuku sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Fine. I don't know why I agreed to that bet," he said, following Bakugo away from the beach. From an adjacent rooftop, a skeletal All Might watched as the boys left the beach. "That young explosive boy seems to have a very powerful quirk," he thought to himself. He felt that both the boys looked familiar, and that both had the potential to be great heroes in the future. One of them could even be a potential successor for One for All. Pulling out his phone, he began to scroll through some old news footage from a few weeks back. He watched the slime villain holding a young blonde teen who had made explosions hostage. He watched with curiosity as the other boy from the beach rushed into the chaos. He watched as the boy reacted with incredible speed to the oncoming punches, dodging them just in the nick of time before blinding the villain with his backpack. He couldn't put a finger on it. He felt for sure that he had seen the young green-haired teen before. Just have to talk to these young boys. They have great potential, he said, bulking up to his buff form. Then he let out a boisterous laugh before jumping away into the sky. Izuku sat meditating on the beach as he focused on trying to develop his connection to the energy around him. It was a much quieter day than usual, with Bakugo out of town with his family for a week. As Izuku stretched his mind out, feeling the trash around him, he could feel his own energy reaching out into the storm around himself. As he began to extend that energy from within, he felt someone approach. Opening his eyes, Izuku saw the skeletal form of All Might walking around, trying to look inconspicuous. He felt his mind wandering back to the day All Might crushed his dreams. A familiar spark flared up inside of him as he glared at his used-to-be idol. It's a wonderful day for a walk, don't you think? Asked All Might, trying to look casual as possible. What brings you here to the beach? Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose with annoyance. He doesn't remember me, Izuku thought. What do you want, All Might? Izuku asked without hiding his annoyance. All Might coughed up blood in surprise. What are you talking about? All Might fumbled, trying to compose himself. Who was this kid? All Might thought to himself. He readied himself to turn back into his buff state if the conversation seemed like it would be turning for the worst. Your name is Tashinori Yagi, also known as the symbol of peace, the hero All Might and my one-sider. Izuku stood, feeling the spark within him turn into a flame. His hair began to swirl as an unseen breeze as the energy became charged around Izuku. You told me all about this form the day you crushed a then quirkless boy's dreams to become a hero. Suddenly, all the pieces came together for All Might. He finally understood why this boy looked so familiar. The boy he saw rushing into danger like a real hero to save his friend, the boy he thought held all the proper traits to inherit his quirk, was the very same boy he had told couldn't become a hero. Tashinori hung his head in shame. I am sorry, he said, his body expanding into his All Might form. I judged you poorly for your lack of quirk. I should have known better that what makes a hero is not just the power that they have, but also their character, and that their heart is truly in the right place. All Might approached the green-haired boy. Young man, I believe that I was wrong. You can become a hero. Izuku felt the flame of anger extinguish as tears began rolling down his cheek. What he had wanted people to see all this time was now being acknowledged again by someone he respected. Thank you, All Might. Young man, there's something I want to ask you about, All Might said, his face serious. Izuku looked confused. You said you were quirkless, but I've been watching you for a while, and I've seen you use powers. If you were quirkless, how did you get these powers? All Might knew that the chances of All for One not dying were slim, but someone deemed quirkless suddenly developing a quirk warranted concern. He also knew that there was a possibility he was just misdiagnosed and manifested his quirk later in life, but the awakening of a quirk after the age of 10 was extremely rare. Izuku looked down at his hands before meeting All Might's gaze. He recounted the events that he had experienced during the slime villain attack and the awakening of his powers. He also explained that they seemed to be a variant of his mother's own quirk. He noticed All Might visibly relax as he recounted his story. This has something to do with the villain in your past, doesn't it? Someone who possesses the ability to give quirks. Izuku wasn't sure how he knew, but he had a feeling that he was onto some secret history of All Might. All Might looked at the young boy before him in shock. How did you deduce that, young man? It's been something else has been manifesting with my quirk. Sometimes I just feel or know things, Izuku explained. I see, All Might said, rubbing his chin. The person that you're talking about died in our last battle. The one where I got my injuries. All Might paused for a moment, thinking about his next words carefully. Young Midoriya, I don't think that just saying a simple "I'm sorry" is going to make up for the damage I've caused you. I see a great deal of potential in you, and seeing how you only got your quirk a little less than a month ago, I am going to train you. Izuku's mouth dropped open. All Might, the greatest pro hero, said that he was going to train me and help me prepare? This is great, Izuku exclaimed. He paused before thinking for a moment. All Might? Is it okay for my friend Bakugo to come and train with us? He's the young man you rushed in to save during the villain attack, correct? All Might asked. Yes, that's him. We've kind of been training to prepare for the entrance exams at UA, Izuku said excitedly. Young Midoriya, have you told young Bakugo about my secret? All Might asked, fixing his gaze on Izuku. No, I told you I wouldn't tell anyone about it, Izuku said, waving his hands in front of him. Although, I would say that Bakugo isn't stupid. If you agree to train both of us, he will put two and two together eventually and figure it out. I see. I'll think about it. All Might looked around the beach. I approve of what you've been doing here to prepare yourself by cleaning up the beach. Come Monday, I will have a modified workout plan made. So, take this weekend to prepare yourself, young Midoriya. If you intend to take the UA entrance exam 9 months, I'll have to push you past your limits. Plus Ultra! All Might laughed. I will be ready, Izuku said, a wide smile spreading across his face. Then I will take my lead, young Midoriya, almost said, deflating back into a skeletal form. Izuku sat there still in shock about what happened. He felt his mind swimming as he considered what he might have to expect from All Might's training. Realizing he needed to calm down and focus, he made his way back to his meditation spot that he had been using before All Might got there. Sitting down, he crossed his legs and began to control his breathing. After a few moments, he began to once again feel the energy around him and within. Reaching out, he once again tried to mingle his internal energy with the energies outside of him. He felt a similar resistance from the two energies that he had felt before when he had tried to do this earlier. But the last few weeks of training had helped him get used to the strain that came from focusing his abilities. He reached out his energy, trying to grab a hold of the external energy as he usually did when moving things. He felt it pull and resist his grasp. As he went to pull at it again, he paused, an idea coming to his mind. Instead of trying to forcefully grab the energy, he tried spreading his own internal energy out and integrating it in with the energy. As he did, he watched as his naturally green energy began to diffuse and mix into the outer energies. Then he felt it. Unlike his previous times, using his abilities to lift and move things around, he had to struggle to bend the energy to his will. He felt his energy and the outer energy connect, forming what he could only describe as a circuit. The outer energies flooded into Izuku. He felt as though he had been struck by lightning and felt his mind expand outwards further than he had ever experienced before. He knew that All Might was at least a mile away, but he could still sense it. He could sense the waves shifting each individual grain of sand as the waves crashed on the shore. He felt the minor shifting of the trash piles. He felt the heat coming off of the girl with pink dreadlocks whose face was 2 inches away from his. Wait a minute. Izuku opened his eyes to see a girl with pink dreadlocks and target-like golden eyes staring at him quizzically. Izuku jumped backwards, panicked by the girl. His connection with the energy around him still intact. He instinctively pushed the energy out of his feet as he pushed off the ground and found himself flying backwards into a trash pile 20 feet away. Ouch! That hurt! Izuku said, crawling out of the trash pile. The grease-covered girl in a mechanic's suit rushed forward, squatting in front of Izuku again. So your quirk allows you to jump really far and float things around you? The girl asked, pulling out a roll of measuring tape and beginning to take measurements despite Izuku's protests. What? No. Izuku stuttered, flustered at how invasive the girl was while taking his measurements. I have a telekinesis quirk. Oh, so it was you who threw the drying machine when I was collecting pieces for my babies. She smiled, standing back up and extending her hand toward Izuku to help him up. Izuku gladly took it. Once Izuku was back on his feet, the girl got close to him again, her face inches away from his. Let's make babies together. Hey guys, thanks for listening. That's the end of part 2. If you enjoyed this content and would like to hear a part 3, please leave a like and a comment. Thank you.